Hello, everyone. Welcome to this third session of Better Together, the Better Together series brought to you by JFF's Post-Secondary Network. I'm Jennifer Freeman, Senior Director at JFF, and I thank you for joining us today and your colleagues from across the country. Before we dive into this, I want to get started with a land acknowledgement. For those of you who aren't familiar, a land acknowledgement, it recognizes the history of the land that we are on and the Indigenous people who live here and continue to live here. I am hosting this from my home near Boston, Massachusetts, and my understanding is that it is the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Pawtucket and Massachusetts nations. I encourage you to open the link in the chat, and you can enter your zip code to learn about the Indigenous people of your location. I'll just pause for a minute and let us reflect for a minute on what we're learning. Okay, now just to some housekeeping. Everyone is muted upon entry, and please keep yourself muted, but we will be going into breakout groups. That'll give you an opportunity to talk to other people on the webinar. And please actively, post your questions and your comments in the chat throughout the session. We'll be responding to those. The session will be recorded, and we'll be following it up with resources. I am hosting, before we get started, or before I turn it over to my colleagues for the session, I wanted to remind, for those of you let you all know who have not been on previous sessions, what the overarching vision is for the post-secondary network and what the ecosystem, what this ecosystem is all about for us. This might look familiar to you for people who have been on this before. We've established a vision as the post-secondary network of a true work and learning ecosystem that we believe is necessary for equitable economic mobility for everyone in our communities. We believe that it requires a true ecosystem approach. This series represents an evolution of JFF's longstanding post-secondary network, which started in 2004. The network's a vehicle for collaboration and scaling of innovation across post-secondary organizations. And at the core of the network are the 16 student success centers. For those of you who don't know, the SSCN serves as a powerful and high-impact source of support for change in community college systems within those states. We launched the Better Together series to help all of you, whether you are part of the SSCN or whether you are a longtime member of the PSN or have just joined us, to help you map out strategic partnerships across the ecosystem so that you can achieve your goals for economic mobility for all residents of your communities. And today, in particular, we're honing in on exploring partnerships across the ecosystem that really help ensure that we're reaching populations that have been historically marginalized by traditional post-secondary systems. I'd like to turn it over now to my colleague Lily Allen to get us started.
Thank you, Jenny. Hi, everybody. I have been at JFF for a number of years, leading the work that's focused on young adults who are not on a straight path to post-secondary education and to labor market success, the young people who sort of fall out of the pipeline. And this topic of community-based organizations and community college partnerships is really central to that work. So I am really honored and pleased to be here. First of all, I want to just in terms of terminology, when we say CBO, we're talking about community-based organizations, and we are going to use that term CBO quite a bit here. I hope that works for you. But one way to think about partnerships is to really think about the trajectory of a student from entry and really pre-entry to completion. So there are really opportunities to leverage CBO partnerships, CBO community college partnerships, at every step of the way. So today, you're going to be hearing about a community-based organization that works across an entire region to widen the funnel of prepared students by doing the pre-work with potential students on choosing a pathway and then getting what they need to start and succeed. And that includes things like academic skills, or securing employment that works with their college schedule. And then we're also going to be hearing about CBOs that are providing basic needs supports, such as food assistance, so that students can experience the learning and the training and achieve the credentials so that they've got what they need to really succeed. So the next slide is going to give us some examples of what this could look like. We're going to be sending out these slides, so I promise you will get a chance to look at this. But we've developed a kind of a typology that lays out the various ways that CBOs and community colleges can partner, and you'll see from this chart that this can range everything from the community-based organization actually offering the full credentialing experience, which gets, the learning is awarded by the higher education partner. And then it can include really a range of ways for the community organizations and the higher education partners to partner, such as the CBO offering support services, the higher education institution offering the academic services, or some other kind of relationship. So I hope that this typology is helpful and not confusing. But I think what we'd like you to do is spend a minute looking at this slide and think about your own work and think about where you have partnerships with community-based organizations, or if you are a community-based organization where you have a partnership with a community college. And what does it look like? What are the specific components that each delivers? And if you do not have a partnership, I'd like you to think about what actually could be useful. What would help you do your work better? So we are going to be going into some breakout sessions. We are going to ask you to think and talk in your breakout sessions, and they're going to be for about 6 minutes. What partnerships have you been part of in your community and for what purposes? And what are some of the benefits and what are some of the challenges? That's a lot of topics for 6 minutes. We'll see how far you can get in that conversation. And I believe we're going to be sending out the topics for the small groups in the chat. So why don't we go ahead and put you in your breakout sessions. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. I think everybody's back. It's hard to see because we've got a question on the screen. So the funny thing about coming back from breakouts is that someone's always cut off. So apologies for that. So what we would love to do now is hear from you all about the benefits of partnerships. What did you talk about in your small group discussions as benefits of partnerships? And what you can do is either use the link in the chat. That's absolutely the easiest thing to do, is go to the link that Rachel has put in with menti.com. Click on that and respond to the question and just put in a few words about what you talked about. If you can't get to that, you can go to menti.com and use the code 228066. And I believe that the responses show up on the screen. So anybody who wants to start putting that up, please do. And if I am incorrect and the responses are somewhere else, I trust someone from JFF will let me know. Here we go. All right. Yeah, so I think this first comment is very important. We know what we do well and what we don't do at all. That's obviously the very first thing. And if you do know that, that's great. So knowing what you do well and where you are maybe unable to support students is really important. I'm having trouble seeing all the way over on the left for some reason. Something mission and efficiency. I wonder if there's a way to move the screen over.
Shared mission and efficiency, Lily.
Thank you. Shared mission and efficiency. So I think that's interesting because we don't usually think of partnerships as leading to efficiency because they can be complicated to put together. I would love it if the person who put that up wants to say a little something about how partnerships can lead to efficiency. Someone want to jump off mute? Who wrote that?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So I find that, you know, when you have a shared mission and you're trying to identify constituents that you're wanting to serve, and you partner with an organization where the benefit is mutual, that there can be efficiency. That's what I meant by that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I think that you're right. And I think people just can sometimes be a little scared of partnerships, that it's better to do everything in-house and more efficient, but I think you're absolutely right. I see reference to addressing financial insecurities, teacher internships. That's a really terrific one as well. And referring to triangulating support for students. The person who wrote about triangulating supports for students, I think you're getting into sort of the real detail of what if both the community college and the community-based organization are providing supports? How do you figure out who does what? Does the person who wrote that want to say something about what you meant by triangulating?
That was actually me, Lily. So I think, speaking to the presentation. This is Danica from NWEA. So I think it's speaking to kind of having clear relationships as partners to figure out how to work together versus competing for services provided to students.
Thank you, Danica. Yes, and I think that your presentation is going to be really helpful on that. So I think what I would like to do actually is take that opportunity to just jump to our presentations. So we are really pleased that we've got 3 examples of partnerships here. So what we're going to do is hear from the 3 partnerships, and we're not going to stop for questions immediately after each. We're going to have questions at the very end, so please jot down your questions as they are speaking. The 3 are sort of three slightly different examples of partnerships. So we're going to start with Dr. Duncan Harris, who is the CEO of Capital Community College in Hartford, Connecticut. And he's going to talk about some of the partnership efforts that are happening in Hartford to boost economic mobility for low-income residents. And this is a pre-recorded video. I don't know if there is someone from Capital Community College on the call who can answer questions, but this is a video, and we're going to get that started right now.
Well, it's indeed an honor to be here, and I'm delighted to share some of the work that's going on at Capital Community College in Hartford around collective action and making an impact in the lives of the students that we serve. And so Hartford and its community college, and so Capital Community College is situated in 300,000 square foot single vertical campus. And what's interesting about Hartford, and many of us are familiar with this Dickens quote, is that it's a city that has 2 tails, right? Each and every day, I guess prior to COVID, we had about 100,000 people that would drive into the city from the suburbs to work in the various industries and companies and things like that and leave. But then another side to the city, where the individuals that live there and don't depart to the suburbs at 5 p.m. are fraught with situations that they're impacted by poverty and inequity, And so there's really two cities going on, and Capital sees our role as being in the middle of that and ensuring that there's that we focus on the folks that live there most, right? And creating ladders and scaffolding to the middle class and the ability to provide for themselves and their families. And so colleges is uniquely aware that that's our role. And what I was going to share today are some of the tactics and strategies that we've deployed since I've been at the college, to support, those aims. One of the first things that I did was got on a number of every board I could, is what I put in the slide. Maybe too many boards, but at the same time, everything from our nationally recognized museum, the Wadsworth, to our workforce investment board, which is Capital Workforce Partners. I'm also on the Career and Technical High School board, the Urban League, and other boards. And so, that was certainly time well spent. And as I was seeking resources and partners and other stakeholders, me being at the tables of those organizations established some level of confidence in the relationship that I was able to pull those resources into the college in some regards. Last December of 2019, Anna Stansberry came to the college. She's a researcher in Harvard's school program on of inequality and social policy. And what she based on her research, what she was able to glean about our institution, which we were not aware of, was that Capital Community College stands out in terms of mobility and what we economic mobility for our students. And so out of all of the two-year community colleges in the countries that we have, as evidenced by my zip code reference, some of the students that come from some of the most economically disadvantaged backgrounds. However, when you look at our outcomes, we're in the top 5% of two-year colleges nationwide in terms of upward mobility of our students in the aggregate. And, in a nutshell, what this really shone a light on was how important it is for us to get into our communities, to partner, to collaborate, and that the idea of a student from that 06106 zip code, that for them to complete my cybersecurity degree, to complete, nursing, EMT, architecture, any of our certificates, and I'll talk a little bit about our Boost program, that really begins to move them along the continuum to the middle class, right, and out of power. And that's a ladder, and that's a hand up. And so, we recognized, in part as a result of Anna's research, that that to double down on this and to do more and better, and to really seek to refine. I think that prior to her, what the research revealed, that it wasn't as intentional as it is now. So based on that, one of the campaigns that we launched into was recognizing once again the career continuum. One of the things, the phrases that we use is first job, a better job, your career. And I'll talk quickly about our Boost program. And then lastly, the power of the collective. And this ties back to what I was mentioning in the first slide with regard to, being able to partner with others. My student is your client, is your citizen, by us all locking arms together, we're able to move that person to the finish line. Just real quick, this is a slide that talks about this in action, and this is a collaboration between our college, Catholic Family Charities, the United Way, Working Cities. It was actually funded through a Kresge Foundation grant, and so I think in terms of the ROI and funding entities that recognize and will incent folks, working together and building systems that support our students. We have two particular programs right now: administrative medical assistants and community health worker, and we're working in some of those zip codes that I referenced earlier. And the annual salaries for those two positions is $45,396 for the admin medical assistants, and then community health worker mental aid with comes with certifications at $38.90. Now, what we recognize is that, and that's the first job that I was talking about. So once again, we're not building these programs in ways in which relegate these individuals should they not move from these positions to a life that continues in poverty. And so what we're doing is we're scaffolding them. We connect them with the college. We have faculty. So for instance, for the administrative medical assistants, there's also an associate's degree that pays more than that. So we have that faculty member coming in to talk to those students about continuing. The community health worker, that program in a similar fashion is tethered and scaffolds into our social service, which goes to a bachelor's in social work at other institutions or an MSW, right? And so one of the things that we want to make sure is that we're saying, this is your on-ramp into this career field. And here's where we're going to help you get that first job in the field that allows you to amass experience and income. And then we really want and expect you to keep going. Wrapping up, kind of, so this is the what's next. And so we've got a few things that this work has once again caused us to want to do in deeper and more meaningful institutionalized ways. We launched an equity, diversity, inclusion center where we house some of our community-based partners. And so we have space for the YWCA, where we have a women's career ladder program. We also have a program with the Sunshine Scholars, which works with students that are currently in foster care that are pursuing their degrees. And so we provided them with space. And then we also have the Boost program and others that will provide space on campus in the Equity Center. Also, that's also a place where that faculty can refer students that are having issues that impede their ability to be successful in the classroom to. I think that at the heart of it is identifying people who, like us, are truly vested in seeing improved outcomes and life outcomes for the folks that we're serving. For us to come together to share the limited resources that we have, but to pool those in ways in which we haven't historically, to have a profound impact on poverty and inequity in our city. So let me share a few other examples of ways in which the community has responded and rallied around the needs of the college. A couple things that come to mind, and even as it impacted by COVID and the rally. We recently, based on students and what we were seeing, how they're impacted by isolation, increased stress based on being at home, we entered into a relationship with Community Health Resources, CHR, which is one of the Central Connecticut's larger mental and behavioral health entities. Once again, I don't have the resources to onboard mental health clinicians. And so once again, as we talk about having the individual in the middle, which is my student that's having things impede their ability to be successful in the classroom, we reached out to our community health resources as a provider to provide mental and behavioral health services to support those students. In a similar fashion, based on a relationship that we had with training, we have a relationship with Otis Elevator. And what we found, and tied once again to some of the poverty and how our students are impacted with barriers to technology, Otis Elevator has stepped up and provided us with laptops and actual desktop computers to support students, that were having barriers. And once again, that's based on limitations that we had, based on limitations that our students had. That is us through these coalition partners, identifying the barrier, the gap, and individuals being willing to step up. And then the last example that I'll give is our YW Career Women's program. which supports female students that are enrolled at the college. And one of the barriers that we found was around childcare. And once again, I'm a parent myself. I have 3 children. Parent is a title that comes before CEO. And what we found was that many of our female students that were had children at home were having a difficult time in making, I'd suggest, the right decision, stopping out instead of completing their degrees based on unreliable childcare. And so one of the things that we've done with our YW program is that in addition to kind of a career navigator and a coach provided by the YW, we have access to their child care services, that they have a very robust program. We have on-site, but then the students participating in the program can also access their other areas. And so once again, as it relates to identifying the resource gaps, and then what the strategy has been to partner with other agencies like the YW, Otis Elevator, or CHR to provide the support for our students to get to their goal and the completion of their degrees. And so once again, I think that there's huge opportunity for our colleges to partner with entities and agencies that have the similar goals in terms of support of client, student, fill in the blank.
Okay, so that was very, very rich. I feel like, and I understand Dr. Harris is on this webinar, so when we get to questions, you can direct them directly at him. But I thought the richness of everything from sort of his very personal approach of joining every board in the region, and then finding ways to partner around mental health, basic needs, childcare, and then even partnering around career pathways. So there was a lot there, and I think they should be very proud of what they have achieved in terms of economic mobility. That's really powerful. So we are now going to hear about a statewide effort. The Michigan Center for Student Success has taken a statewide approach to sort of help local colleges forge local partnerships that support student basic needs. Once again, we have a video, and Precious Miller from the Student Success Center, Michigan Center for Student Success, is going to speak. She is not on this, but Erica Oriens, who's the executive director of the Michigan Center, is with us. So let's watch this next video.
Hello, everyone. My name is Precious Miller, and I am the coordinator of My Best, Building Economic Stability Today. It is a pleasure to have been invited for the series on partnerships and partnering to reach new learners. I will be talking about cross-sector collaboration and what that looks like. We have seen that through My Best, collaboration with state government and local community organizations can help colleges recruit, retain, and graduate learners who typically have been underserved by post-secondary institutions. Collaborative work, in essence, is powerful because we can get more accomplished when we partner with one another. So I would be remiss if I did not introduce you to my amazing colleagues, Jenny Shanker, Erica Oriens, and Katie Girodello. With our partnership with My Best, transfer work, guided pathways, and advocacy for increased access to post-secondary education, our synergy allows us to best support the work of Michigan community colleges. Erica Oriens will be live with you for question and answers after today's session. I will also share our contact information at the end of this presentation, should any of you like to reach out to us after today. We welcome your questions and the connection, because we are better together. My Best, Building Economic Stability Today, is a basic needs initiative and is a grant-funded project from the ECMC Foundation. My Best was birthed out of the response to the research conducted by the Hope Center for College, Community, and Justice. Based on their findings, it was noted that basic need insecurity was a prevalent factor that negatively impacted a student's ability to persist to graduation. Though this has been known to many of our colleges and efforts had been made to address the issue, there still lacked a systematic strategy to address it, the issue of basic needs. So, in recognizing that colleges were deeply concerned about the economic instability among their students, we conducted a comprehensive survey to our community colleges. We wanted to understand the college's perspective of the most challenging non-academic barriers to student success. So the graphic that you see here illustrates the survey results. The survey results displayed reflect patterns of present barriers to student persistence, with income and employment, food, household goods, and clothing being the two primary barriers. To implement a systematic strategy to address economic instability, we rallied 25 Michigan community colleges around the central goals of My Best, which are to understand the needs of students and the community, integrate economic stability practices and student support, and share best practices across Michigan. Each campus has a My Best team lead with 8 to 12 team members from various roles at the institution. This was important to make sure that all of the systematic change in place was done in a comprehensive way from multiple perspectives of institutional practices. And each goal that you see listed here has strategies listed underneath it that allow for us to have the support needed to make sure the goal is accomplished. The project timeline is from November 2019, when the survey was administered to our community colleges in Michigan, and the project is expected to end in June of 2022. We are on target to accomplish each outlined goal, but it is my heart's desire to make sure that My Best isn't just another initiative, but offers our colleges the support, resources, and tools and knowledge to make sure that everything that we talk about within My Best and put in practice within My Best are things that can be carried on throughout the years for students to be successful. Throughout the pandemic, one thing we were continuously reminded of is how the pandemic has really legitimized the need for My Best. What I appreciate most about our project are the ways new legislation has increased access to post-secondary education and made college attainment a viable option. Some of you may be familiar with the state level changes in place, such as Futures for Frontliners and Michigan Reconnect. Futures for Frontliners is one program that offers free college tuition for COVID-19 frontline workers, and Michigan Reconnect is a program that offers free tuition for Michigan residents over at 25 years of age and older. And those individuals are able to attend their district community college. With these legislative changes in place, we have seen an increase of individuals return to community college. Many of these individuals perhaps were or are unfamiliar with or are reorienting themselves with things like enrollment for classes, the cost of books, selecting a program even that aligns with their career goals. Through the support that community colleges receive from My Best, community colleges are armed in making the transition to college easier for individuals to navigate who are coming into the community college space through the platform of Michigan Reconnect and Futures for Frontliners. Now, once those students are active on a college campus, and all students are enrolled in a community college, My Bridges is another tool that can further support students in having access to their basic needs and making sure their basic needs are met. And My Bridges is a public benefit system that allows for users to apply for and locate state and local benefits. Now, in one system, users can apply for healthcare coverage, food assistance, childcare, cash assistance, and they can locate local resources in their area that they might need. Now, if that wasn't impressive enough, Those who partner with Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and are trained in navigating MyBridges can offer case management-like support to those who have used MyBridges. Now, earlier I mentioned that one of the MyBest goals is to integrate economic stability practices. Well, our community colleges are becoming partners with MyBridges and are being trained in the system so that they can then meet the MyBest goal, but also so that they can better support their students who have needs. With this state level system and institutional collaboration, college staff are now armed to advocate for student supports and to connect students with the supports that they would need to be able to persist to completion. SNAP Perkins is another program that allows for students enrolled in career and technical education programs to apply for food assistance when historically they had been denied. Previously, college students enrolled in qualifying CTE programs at least half-time could not apply for SNAP benefits, even if they met income eligibility requirements. But with Labor and Economic Opportunity and Michigan Department of Health and Human Services seeking and receiving federal approval for the SNAP program, the state is able to now address the rising food insecurity among college students. With the long-term effects of the pandemic, this resource is of added aid to many of our students. I would also like to highlight another MyBest partner that we have with Michigan Association of United Ways. Now, this organization has public policies designed to help the ALICE population, which consists of individuals who are asset limited, income constrained, and employed. Michigan Association of United Ways provides ALICE data, which depicts those in our communities who are in need. The value of having access to ALICE data is the ability to see the needs of those in our community from a bird's eye view. Now, imagine what you could do if you knew the specific needs of a community down to the county line. This data allows for us to advocate for the services most needed by the demographics of any given community and can show us the needs of the community down to county lines. All of the points listed here are ways in which others, such as yourself and other colleagues you might know, the opportunity to advocate for change in your spheres of influence. The change that takes place at the state level have a direct impact at the local level. The community-based organizations our colleges partner with have the goal of providing holistic supports to students. With the involvement of community-based organizations, we have seen grocery stores being able to stock the food pantries that exist at our community colleges. We have also seen college extension sites being stationed in the heart of a community, then bringing access to post-secondary education closer to those who may have challenges with transportation or childcare. When we consider our frontline workers and reconnect students, local changes like this are essential. We have also seen tiny homes being built for students with families, again, removing the barrier of childcare and housing for many students. And partnerships with community organizations to stock clothing closets for students who need access to business wear not only strengthens the individual and the local community, but also builds the state economy at large. The economic growth of people are the heart behind MyBest. And I invite my colleague Erica Oriens to be a resource to you all to ask her any questions you might have about this presentation. The slide deck will also be made available for you, and I welcome you all to connect with Erica and myself after today's session. So again, thank you for attending today's session, and I wish you all the very, very best in the rest of your day and moving forward. Have a great one. Be well.
So I don't know what I love more, the state level collaboration that goes deep into the community or Precious's enthusiasm for what they've built, but that's very robust. And we also have Katie Giardello along with Erica here to answer questions. So we are actually going to now go to a live presentation from a team from Seattle, Washington, which is going to include the community-based organization, the college, and a student. So I will turn it over to Danica Martinez from Northwest Education Access.
Thank you for having us. We're really excited to talk about our work here today. My name is Danica Martinez. I'm a program director with Northwest Education Access, formerly known as Seattle Education Access. And I'll be joined today by my co-director, Jeff Corey, one of our education advocates, Hansel Torres, and we're really excited that one of our students, Naomi Yanis, will be joining us as well. So I'm going to sort of just give a brief overview of our organization today at a very high level, and if folks have questions, I think we'll have time at the end to get down into some details of how our program really operates in smaller detail. But really, we're hoping to highlight one of our longest standing partnerships today that has really evolved over time into one of our most robust partnerships, which is at Seattle Central College Transition Center. If we can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So this is just a very short overview of the work that NWEA does. We support opportunity youth or folks ages 16 to 29. Our age range is a little bit wider than a lot of organizations in our area, who are maybe limited to 18 to 21-year-olds or 16 to 24, something like that. We've sort of intentionally tried to keep it a little bit broader because there tends to be a gap for in a lot of services for folks between the ages of about 25 and 30. All of our students are low income, though we're a very low barrier and don't require proof of income at all at any point in our organization or enrollment process. And then we support folks on non-traditional pathways. And really for us, that means that we are working outside of mainstream K-12. So most of our folks are coming from different types of GED or alternative high school settings, or have a longer gap between formal education and college. So we do one-on-one support for education planning, financial planning, and specifically connecting students to different types of on-campus and community resources in our area. So this is sort of a look at what we call our pre-college or college prep program, and this is where really the bulk of our work takes place that our education advocates are leading, or our EAs are our primary program staff member. And you can see here it sort of follows a linear fashion from intake to getting a student ready to feel fully prepared for starting their first college class. And when we say college, we really mean T2 for any type of post-secondary program that a student is interested in going to after completing the GED or high school diploma or having completed it a while ago. We try to make our program as low barrier as possible and try not to pile on any paperwork immediately, specifically because we're working with a lot of folks who have been marginalized and disenfranchised by a lot of different systems or tossed around by those different systems. So trying not to perpetuate any type of harm is really important to us. And so taking it a really authentic relationship-based approach is really important. So our pre-college map has essentially combined that relationship-building approach with all of the pre-college steps that it requires to start college successfully. Our education advocates are essentially overseeing all of this work, though we are partnering with a lot of folks to make sure that it happens, such as basic needs case managers, workforce funding folks, GED instructors, really just making sure that students have the network of support that they need. And then this is our college success map, and really what it's intended to do is show that our support is ongoing and continues with a student as long as they are interested in pursuing any type of education goal. So ideally through graduation and into a living wage career. And really what this, it gets to what Dr. Harris was discussing around upward mobility, and that's really the goal here. And so it's pretty common, in fact, it's most common for most of our students to take a break from college at some point or another and step back in. So what we're really trying to do is pile on that support when a student steps in and out of college and frame it as proactively as possible and reframing from a dropout perspective and understanding that lots of different types of growth opportunities can happen while a student is out of college. Knowing that our program is here and will be in touch with the student the entire time to make sure that they have the support when they're ready to step back in. So this is a map of most of King County, which is where the majority of our program is located. We refer to our NWEA network all the time, which is comprised of different community-based organizations, re-engagement, high school or GED sites, and community and technical colleges. We're lucky to have many different education options in King County, though most of them are centered closer to the city, and resources definitely are fewer and far between as you get into suburban and rural areas of our county. But really, this is how we think about our work in terms of a regional approach to make sure we're connecting students to as many possible resources that are close to them and then across the region. What's not shown on here is that we have expanded some of our work for direct service into Pierce County and for direct service support, and then just north of us in Snohomish County, we're exploring some capacity building support with other organizations that we'll get to talk about a little bit later. So that's a little bit about our organization. Again, I think we'll have a little bit of time for questions, but I'm going to pass it over now to my coworker, Jeff, to talk about Seattle Central College Partnership.
Cool. Thanks, Danica. So Danica showed you the map of kind of our region. The partnership we're talking about today is with Seattle Central College, which is kind of in the center of that map, and it's in the heart of the city. So Seattle Central is located in downtown Seattle, one of the most densely populated neighborhoods in the city. Probably not a surprise to you. It's a high cost of living. Seattle's a pretty expensive place, but it's also, because it's in downtown Seattle, it's also a real service hub. So there's a lot of CBOs and a lot of service centers. And as long as NWEA, formerly SEA, has been around, which is about 20 years, we've been serving students in this region and supporting them at Seattle Central. So the data here is just looking at over the last 5 years, and it's really just to show that 300 students that we've supported in college classes in the last 5 years there, 130 active students. We've had a number of graduates. As long as we've been doing our work in the region, Seattle Central has been a big partner of ours. Next slide, please. And out of that came a kind of natural partnership with the Transition Center. So our colleague Hansel Torres will talk about the specifics of that partnership, but really the Transition Center has been supporting students in kind of ELL, ABE, GED programs at Seattle Central, and we've been informally partnering with them a long time, and because of that, it kind of led to this partnership that we'll talk about, a more formalized partnership. But over the last 5 years, we've had 117 students referred directly from the Transition Center. We've had 75 that have already enrolled in post-secondary programs. We've had 12 graduates in the last few years. We've got almost 50 students actively enrolled. So just to show that this partnership, which started, 10 years ago, because we were both serving students and we would start to get like referrals, or we'd make referrals to the Transition Center, has really grown over time. We had a staff member who probably 4 years ago was spending about half their time in the Transition Center getting students. And now Hansel, who will speak next, is probably getting 80 to 85% of the students he works with from the Transition Center. So it's been, the evolution of this partnership has really grown because I think that we kind of shared values in the way that we wanted to support students. So I'll let Hansel talk about the Transition Center and the work that he's doing there.
Awesome, thank you, Jeff. So again, my name is Hansel. I'm one of the education advocates with Northwest Education Access. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit of my partner site and the direct work that I'm doing. We have the partnership with the Adult-Based Education and ESL Transition Center. And the Transition Center, like Jeff mentioned, I get about 80 to 85% of my referrals from the Transition Center. And I also offer college readiness workshops. These college readiness workshops are workshops that I offer to adult-based education and ESL classes. So like with the buy-in from the instructors, I'm able to go into the classes and present on workshops. And some of these workshops are about like career exploration, where I talk about careers that are at the college, but also about other trades and other technical schools around the area. So they have options, which I think is really awesome. I also do a college readiness workshop on time management and learning styles, where students can really learn techniques for time management and also advocate for their learning styles, which has been really great. We also do a growth mindset workshop, and then also a funding workshop where we talk about funding and how to pay for schools and how to find scholarships. And I also do a workshop on finding resources and finding resources not only in the college but also around the area. These workshops have picked up in the last year and really show the evolution of our partnership with the Transition Center. Before I got there, there was no workshops, but since I was there, we've been able to roll out the workshops, and a lot of instructors and students always tell me about how important it is to have these workshops as part of this partnership, because students really benefit and really see the buy-in from them. And so I wanted to talk a little bit of the demographics. So from the Transition Center, a lot of my referrals are ages 18 to 40 years old. Many are English language learners. Many are still finishing up their GED or high school diploma. Many are also parents. Like Beth mentioned, Seattle is very expensive, so many are commuters from outside Seattle, so they come from outside to the college. Many of my students are experiencing homelessness, and many are immigrants and refugees. And these are just some demographics. I love to point out many of the students that I work with have been advocating for themselves their whole lives, right? And many of them are very extremely resilient. And so a lot of it is modeling for a lot of these students. As an education advocate, my role is really to streamline a lot of the supports that these students get and help them get access to resources. So these are demographics that show a little bit of our students, but there's so much more to their stories. And I really love to point out that a lot of them have been advocating for themselves, and I'm really just there to enhance that and really model some of how you do this in education and how you can interact with some of these systems that are not very student friendly, unfortunately. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk about how my role and how it partners with the community technical colleges, right? So with NWEA, and that is also one of my other fabulous students, and that's to the left. And so with Northwest Education Access, my role is really to support and follow up for students in between campus departments. As many of you know, a lot of departments don't speak to each other. So whether that's financial aid, registration, cashier's office, a lot of those offices, they don't communicate. So my role is really to support students. Often I go with students to these offices and again, model how maybe those conversations can be had and connect students to those departments. So again, like whether it's going with them or emailing together, our roles are really to follow up and help students between these departments to help get the answer they need or get the accessibility they need to continue on their education. We also support for students off campus, including access to community resources. So we have a big window of opportunity to learn about other off campuses, and in the evolution of our partnership, we are always learning of new community resources. So our role is really to connect students to other resources in the area. I always tell students, consider me as an expert in education, but if I don't have a resource available here at the school, I am learning about other ones as well. So I love to connect students, obviously, to other resources in the community. And how this connects to the community technical colleges, which is Seattle Central. With my partnership, I'm able to access information and shortcuts within the institution. Since I have the direct partnership, I'm able to communicate and also establish those relationships internally within the institution. So if students run into issues or there's some technical things that are happening, I'm able to bypass some of the barriers that are already there and talk to someone directly and help them get access and resolve some of those issues, which has been really helpful. And I also get access to on-campus resources, including funding opportunities, program-specific advisors, and industry navigators. So with the connections that I'm doing on my own with some of the connections on campus, I'm able to connect students to resources that they may have not heard of before. So it's really great to collaborate in that sense with the department, for example, my department, which would be the Adult-Based Education ESL partnership, to connect students to other resources that they may have not heard of. So students benefit from advocates within and outside the institution. And my role is definitely, by all means, not to be territorial about the students I work with. It's about getting students more support. So if there's other case managers, if there's other mental health specialists that I can connect students to, the better, right? I always love to mention how it's really like building an ice cream cone where like the vanilla is like me, but like other case managers is like the chocolate, and like other people within the institution are like other flavors. And the more flavors you have, the more students are going to benefit from all of those supports. And all of my students, you know, I always, if I'm going to point out a resource to them or a referral to another program, I always like to do some research before, go into the space and see if it's comfortable. Will the student feel like welcome in that environment? Like I mentioned, a lot of my students already have either faced educational trauma or have had some disadvantages in the education system. So I want students to feel comfortable. And so that's why I go in with them. It's so important. And also meeting them where they're at. So whether that's at the Starbucks nearby or meeting at the library, it's so important for our work to be very unique in the sense that we meet students really where they're at and where it makes sense for them. And when they're telling us about barriers such as childcare or needing bus tickets to get to school, that's really where we listen. And our special sauce is really to help find those resources for the student and let them know that we're going to be there along the way. So as long as they're, working towards an educational goal, we are there along the way. So next, I have the honor and privilege to work to have one of the students that I've worked with for the past 2 years, Nahum Yanis, who will be with us right now. And so we will hear from him now. And so Nahum, can you share your experience at Seattle Central College and working with us?
Yes, of course. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. I'm very pleased and I'm honored to be here joining this wonderful Zoom going on. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Talking about me and my experience joining, being part of this wonderful organization. I would like to say that, first of all, I'm an immigrant who came to this country when I was 21 years old. I didn't speak English when I got here. It was really difficult. It was just really, really difficult. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to go to college and start my education. And from there, I decided to go to Seattle Central College. And my academic journey starts all the way from ESL, which is English as a Second Language. I completed that program. I completed also my General Education Diploma, GED. Also took a lot of adult and basic transitional classes to transfer to college. But very interesting and very thankful because while I was taking all these programs, I got to know about the Transition Center, and somehow that became a very a wonderful place for me to go and just look for help. And that's a place where I always got all the support from Claire, wonderful person who works there. And it was actually through the transition center that I got to know about this wonderful organization, the Northwest Education Access. So since then, I started my college to take my college degree, which is an AA in global studies. And I have to say that all the advocates from this organization, Jennifer, Danica, Jeff, Hansel, they have always been there to help me. It's been really difficult times sometimes, but thanks to this support, to this scholarship they provided me every quarter, I've been able to complete my college degree. They provided me tutoring, they provide me advice, they provide me calculators, laptops, bus pass tickets. I don't drive, so they're always there, and I'm really thankful for that. But I'm so happy because thanks to this, to this kind of support, I'm able to doing this, and it's been really difficult, especially now due to COVID. So I finished my AA degree, and somehow I continue to take advanced education as an IT and network support. So right now I'm taking that education, and I'm very happy that they're always there to help me. They're always taking care of me, like calling me, being in touch, asking me questions, saying at home, do you need this? How you doing? Do you need? They're always there. So thank you very much. Thanks to this, I'm still here, getting an education, and I'm just speechless. And thank you very much. I think that's it from me.
Thank you so much, Nahum, for sharing your story, a little bit of your story with us. I love Nahum's story because it really shows how this partnership really has evolved, and it's really like students like Nahum that this partnership really evolved. Just his story of starting from ESL, making it through adult-based education, and then going in and getting his AA can be so nerve-wracking and can be so scary. And a lot of these systems aren't very student-friendly. And so I think this speaks volumes to why this partnership really got created and has evolved throughout the years, because students like Nahum see the benefit in it. And we've seen that with collaboration within with the Transition Center and our work, it's been very important to continue to work with students like Nahum. So thank you so much, Nahum, for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you too.
All right. I think it's me. Can we go next slide? Damn, Nahum, that was so great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff.
We just wanted to kind of end with, the partnership that was just described so beautifully by Nahum and Hansel. We know that by partnering with organizations, with both community colleges and CBOs, to provide holistic support to students, we have found in our own experience that it works. We had a federal evaluation by the Urban Institute that was done in partnership with JFF, actually, that found that students that were getting support from an education advocate were 3 times as likely to enroll into post-secondary, and young men of color that were involved in the study were actually 7 times more likely to enroll. We've also been running our own internal persistence data for the past 3 or 4 years, and we found that 71% of students persist into year 2. We're starting to see the number of graduates grow. So we know that this works, and we're really excited about kind of scaling this model, which Danica is going to talk about.
Thank you. Can we move to our next slide? Thank you. So with our Urban Institute evaluation results and through kind of trial and error and different partnerships that we've had in King County and beyond, we have a few different approaches that we are testing out and keeping our eyes on for scalability and sustainability, and thinking about our long-term growth plan. So we actually received some seed funding from the state of Washington after a couple of years of advocating with the legislator for expansion for a little bit of direct service into Pierce County, which is just south of where we are, and into Snohomish County as well. That's really exciting to us. I think right now, you know, we're mostly King County wide, but we haven't figured out exactly, you know, if we're trying to expand beyond these 3 counties, and what that looks like across the state. And so right now we're actually in the process of working with the legislator for additional funding to really sustain the work that we've started in those 2 other counties. We've also, right now we're contracting directly with some CTCs. That can be kind of a complicated process, though it has a lot of benefits for us, and it kind of allows us to work really in strong collaboration to make sure, you know, we're aligned with the program that we are partnered with, and the outcomes are kind of really centered around students. So it really takes some intentional planning. And then a lot of states, including Washington, have different types of Promise scholarships. And regionally, we're able to advocate specifically for Opportunity Youth to have kind of a call out of funding in the King County Promise program that's kind of just getting off the ground. And so we're looking forward to partnership with colleges specifically for that Promise scholarship, and looking to expand our services that way. And then the last one is partnering to build college navigation capacity at local organizations. So I mentioned we have some seed funding from the state for Snohomish County. We're testing out kind of what it means to really package our program and make it into a toolkit for other organizations to use, and really pick and choose from what they want to use to kind of deepen what they're doing in terms of post-secondary navigation. And since then, we've had a few other organizations reach out in different capacities to say, like, hey, you know, I really think my staff could benefit from financial aid training. So ultimately, we think we might be able to tailor different types of toolkits based on what organizations are looking for. So if folks have additional questions, again, about that, we're kind of learning as we go for all of these, but are happy to chat about it. I think that's about it. I'm not sure if we're moving to questions, Lily, now, but thank you so much for having us here. This was really exciting to be able to talk about our work and bring a student with us into the conversation as well.
Thank you so much, Danica. And I can say, because I know the evaluation, that one little additional data point is that students who participated in NWEA support were 7 times more likely to graduate with a credential. And that's a really extraordinary outcome. So I want to see if there are any questions. Thank you all so much for that presentation and for the other ones. Are there any questions? Someone want to take themselves off mute, and let's pull down the slides so we can see each other, and go right ahead and ask questions if you have them. And if you don't, I have a question. Okay, well, I think what I would like to do is just hear from Erica, because she is here. Hi, Erica. And so what Precious presented was so broad and so deep. I mean, actually similar to NWEA, it's very, very comprehensive across a region, in your case, across a state, but also very, very deep. And so it obviously takes time to develop that level of partnership. And what would you suggest as a kind of a first step for folks who want to try to build out that level of infrastructure? Where would you start?
I think that's a good question. I'll say a couple things about that. The first area that we really focused on in the first year of our project is understanding our student needs. The first year of our project coincided with the pandemic, and so student needs changed very dramatically, and we learned a lot about that through issuing CARES Act funds and those types of things. But certainly one thing I would do is start with understanding your specific student needs and your community. Every community is different. Every community has assets and needs that would be unique. The second thing that I would recommend doing that was really helpful to us is our Department of Health and Human Services, our United Ways, have invested for many years into community-based resources that we can leverage at the community colleges. And so I would get connected with your Department of Health and Human Services, and we happen to partner with the United Way that has a really strong CBO network across the state, but that's really crucial to as a kind of precursor to have that kind of statewide work that we've done.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think what you're saying about students is the same as in this pandemic and in this sort of rapidly changing time. It's work with employers. Really knowing what the needs are in a rapidly changing world is critical. I think that we are going to be doing one more Mentimeter here, so I'm going to invite my colleague to put up the slide. We want to hear what you are taking from this session. So we're going to get a link in the chat. There we go. What have you learned today that you can apply to your own work? Oh, look at that. Somebody's already, we got several examples. People have been doing this while we've been going along. Okay, so approach to needs, I think, is going exactly what Erica was just saying, really understand your population. That's obviously what NWEA and Dr. Harris did as well. CBO prototypes, we're going to be very happy to share the slides with you so that you can think about what's the right kind of relationship with your CBOs and exemplars. That's great. Anything else anybody wants to add that you want to take from this session? Okay. I think the idea of a network is something that we didn't have time to dig into with Dr. Harris, who had to leave early. I did put his email in the chat in case you want to follow up with him. But having a coalition at the local level, given the complexity of the needs, I think is a really promising practice. I am going to go ahead and turn it back over to my colleague Jenny to talk to us about a tool that JFF has that can help to guide some of this work and what our upcoming sessions are on. Jenny, over to you. I believe you're on mute, Jenny.
Oopsie. Okay. Thank you, Lily. All right. So what a fantastic collection of examples. Thank you so much to all of our presenters. I hope that I hope this really inspired you, all of you listening, to connect with partners across your ecosystem and provided some really concrete ideas about ways that you can work together. I want to just thank Hansel for that really great metaphor about the ice cream cone, the ice cream sundae, that to really serve a broad array of people in your community, it takes many flavors. So that was great. In any case, as we were putting this together, as we were thinking about this notion of the ecosystem and really how essential it is now and in preparation for the dramatic changes that we're experiencing right now in the education and work ecosystem, how are we going to together build that future where learning opportunities are available to more people, that we're really reaching people across communities who are not currently served? And as we were thinking about how we could help you, we had a lot of conversations with people, with stakeholders, a lot of people on this call, a lot of other people in the field, and we built a ecosystem partnership tool. What we heard from you is that what you would like is really more of an action guide, a way to really figure out how to forge these partnerships. We heard a lot about a lot of great partnerships, but Erica started to get into it, like how do you really make these work? That's what we're hoping this tool will be able to do for you. It starts with, it helps guide inquiry around what it is you want to need to address. It outlines a strategic planning process for you and your partners, helps you identify key challenges, includes questions that you can use to help facilitate constructive dialogue with partners, and it really ends with an action plan for you. If we could go to the next slide, so these are the stages of this tool. I'll just walk you through briefly. There's a reflection stage. What are your challenges? You can't address every last challenge you can't start, 45 partnerships to address every last challenge. Where do you really want to prioritize? What things do you really want to hone in on? What challenges are you trying to address? And then there's a discovery phase to figure out, to look at the possibilities across your ecosystem. Think about what kind of partnerships would really help you address those challenges. And then that phase ends by helping you plan an outreach strategy. How do you initially begin to forge these partnerships? And then going to the next slide, then the next section is really about co-visioning and collaborating with your partners. What's that shared agenda that you want to build together? How do you look at your shared vision, your shared values? How are you going to make sure to operationalize the diversity, equity, and inclusion goals that you share? And then finally, what's your action plan? How are you really going to do this? The tool, my colleague Rachel will be putting a link into the chat in just a second, or she already did, to get access to the tool. This tool is right now in beta form. We really want to encourage all of you to get in there, to use it, to explore it, and then to let us know how it works for you and whether you think that this is going to help you build those partnerships, because we're going to make enhancements to the tool based on what we hear from you. We're also going to have, for those of you who go into the tool and start to use it, we're going to have a kickoff webinar to go through it more deeply. So make sure to go into the tool and let us know if you would like to engage with us in a community to begin to talk about how the tool can be used to serve your goals and to make sure that you can build strong partnerships of the type that we heard about today. So now I want to shift to just talking for a second about the next few sessions. Someone mentioned the essential, we talked a lot today about community-based organizations and wraparound supports for students and reaching people that typically are not well served by traditional post-secondary systems. What we're going to talk about next time are those partnerships that are really essential if we are going to be building pathways that lead to meaningful careers. So partnerships with employers, the workforce system, industry, other industry players. That's going to be on March 25th at 2:30, and we hope you will join us for that. That is being structured with a lot of opportunity for a lot of deep conversation with people across, people who will be on this webinar from a wide variety of parts of the ecosystem. So we hope you join us for that. And then the next two sessions are going to be looking at, and these are the last two sessions, we're going back out to look at the influencers of the ecosystem. In this case, the influencers being policy and being funding. On March 29th, we'll be looking at state and federal policy and looking at those policies that sometimes facilitate and help and sometimes harm equitable education and employment outcomes, and how, what kinds of policies what kind of policy changes will better incentivize cross-sector collaborations. And then on April 18th, our final webinar is going to be looking at funding, at public funding at the state and at the federal level. We'll talk specifically about funding sources that you can leverage by working in collaboration with partners in your community. That will wrap up our session, and then we'll be doing some more with you folks who are wanting to explore further the tool, some more support to help you build your own ecosystem. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for And thank you again to our presenters. And we look forward to seeing you on March 25th. Thank you all.